Hey everyone, Brian Zayn here with my review of the 2020 Survivor Series pay-per-view. It just wrapped up. I'm here to tell you my thoughts about the show. Lots of ups and downs with this one, and also some emotions at the very end with the Undertaker farewell. We'll get to that in a bit, but this show begins with the Men's Survivor Series match, Raw versus SmackDown. Seth Rollins, looking really sullen the entire time of the match, finally tags himself in and dramatically sacrifices himself to Sheamus with a bro kick. I would have loved it if at the end when Sheamus is looking up at the SmackDown team after the pinfall, he just looks up and goes, I don't know. KO and the rest of the SmackDown team confer on the outside when Strowman finally trucks them. Otis and Keith Lee have a big boy face-off, but the Thunderdome crowd no-sells it. It's one of those moments where if there was a live crowd, they kind of pause for it and they want the audience to naturally go ooh and ah over this thing. But we don't get that here, even in this controlled environment. I felt in this match in particular, whatever buttons they pushed to get the different sound effects for the Thunderdome crowd, they weren't pushing them because they sounded very dead for this one. For a very, even though it's canned, I know I get that. Owens with a stunner fest before Styles takes him out with a flying forearm. Riddle eliminates Corbin with a dive. Strowman and Otis trade big boy spots until Strowman finally takes Otis out with a power slam. Jey Uso all by his lonesome here. He hits a big old dive though. Keith Lee catching him on his shoulders in midair into a spirit bomb to win a clean sweep of SmackDown, and everyone on the team Raw is now happy. I give it 3 stars out of 5. Some pretty good action here during the match. I thought some of the stories they told throughout were interesting, especially Seth Rollins' elimination. Probably another chapter in his inevitable write-off from television to enjoy fatherhood. Got to see some cool stuff with the bigger guys, doing, power moves to each other. I'm always in favor of that. As the match was going on, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if it was just a total shutout in favor of Raw? And sure enough, that's what happened. And I guess the conclusion of that storyline was all the tension we saw with the Raw guys. They show at the end, they're shaking hands, and yay, everyone's happy, so hooray for teamwork. Tag champs versus tag champs as the New Day of Raw take on the Street Profits of SmackDown, and the look of the night goes to the New Day as all 3 of them come out with their Gears of War gear. So cool that they're now DLC in Gears 5. What a dream tie-in if you're the New Day, or just if you were ever a fan of any video games, to be immortalized like that in a video game. That's a pretty cool moment. The Street Profits backstage paid tribute to the Undertaker with some name dropping. As the match begins, there's lots of shtick and posturing, kind of like cat and mouse stuff. Some great agility from Ford early on, but he gets worked over. Takes quite a beating, but finally breaks free from Kofi with a DDT. Dawkins with a hot tag, and he looks great. Some more tags between he and Ford. There's the anointment, an amazing frog splash by Ford, but he's too hurt to pin in time. Somehow Ford takes the heat twice in this match. Not a full 2 hot tags in this thing, but we do get an amazing blind tag at the end when Xavier turns his back, leading to a super blockbuster from Ford for the Profits to win. Wowzers. I give it 4.5 stars out of 5. A tremendous tag team match, and one of the top 2 matches, I believe, on this show. This was just a lot of great fun. I think Montez Ford's selling and his valiant effort to come back and stuff was really well done. I think, he took most of the offense in this matchup here, but he really took it well. I think the story they told between the 2 teams was awesome. That blind tag, I'd never seen one quite like that before, and that definitely earned me some points here. But yeah, these 2 teams, we know exactly what they're capable of doing, and they delivered on this night. Up next, the U.S. champion Bobby Lashley takes on the Intercontinental champion Sami Zayn, a rematch for the ages with these guys. As the match begins, Sami spending a lot of time dodging Bob at first, but he gets caught and Lashley throws him around a bit. Sami guillotines Bob and takes over. Lashley comes back, but Sami claims he has vertigo all of a sudden, which allows him to get a cheap shot in. Sami tries to goad the Hurt Biz into interfering, but they do not touch him. Sami somehow stays alive in this thing, goes to cheat, but Cedric and Shelton stop him from doing that. Sami tries to run away, but MVP cuts him off, and Sami tries to claim he got tripped, but he's thrown into the ring, and Lashley puts him in the Hurt Lock, and the match is over. Sami claims he was robbed, and Graves even tries to appeal for him to the referee, but it's no use. I give it 1 star out of 5. It's a fun story, but besides that, it's a pretty one-sided comedy question mark match. Sami's antics to me are always very entertaining. Lashley looks strong as hell here, and Sami's character plays it off really well. So even in defeat, he still kind of wins in that way that his character advances. He's more this kind of persecution complex and super feeling whiny about everything about losing this match here. So at least that worked for him there. The Usos are chatting outside Roman Reigns' locker room. Roman's very upset that Jey lost the Survivor Series team match. He couldn't control his team. Jimmy Uso tries to interject, but Roman shoots him down, and then he tells Jey to stay while Jimmy leaves. Roman says he needs to make them respect the family. Roman then just tells him to leave the arena. He's very disappointed in his cousin Jey. Up next, the two women's champions are in action. Asuka on Raw, Sasha Banks on SmackDown, and this one definitely delivered as well. The match begins very technical, trading a lot of holds, pretty much keeps going that way throughout the entire match. Asuka with some good strikes in, some good joint manipulation as well, but Sasha is very tenacious. She makes a great comeback into some more holds. Fighting on the apron, there's a hip attack by Asuka, and down goes Sasha. A meteor attempt off the barricade, but Asuka catches her in midair, and they're both down. Some lovely back and forth for a good while here. More trading hold attempts. Asuka goes to the big running attack at the end, but Sasha catches her and rolls her up to win. This one gets 4 stars out of 5 for me. Another great match on the night. I said before, these two have some amazing chemistry, and it really came to the forefront in this matchup here. I really enjoyed the finish because it was kind of coming from out of nowhere, kind of a surprise thing. It doesn't hurt Asuka any. It was just kind of like, oh, I caught it at just the right time. And Sasha looking pretty good here. What I liked about this, and from most of the night, I was expecting some kind of like run-ins or kind of like bleeding over whatever storylines are going on, in particular like sides of the match, to come into play in these champ versus champ matches, and they really haven't so far, and so I've been enjoying that at least. We get a recap of the Gobbledygooker winning the 24/7 title in the kickoff show. Then we see the Gooker backstage following a big trail of birdseed right into a trap laid by Akira Tozawa. He rolls up the Gooker to win the title, but then gets laid out with a big bag of birdseed by R-Truth. He regains his baby. I echo R.D. Reynolds' sentiments from WrestleCrap.com, where he says, "It's about time the Gooker finally got his due." Women's Survivor Series matchup next. All the relevant names are listed here below. Poor Lana. She's got no friends. No one likes her. You got Nia Jax in the back telling everyone else not to tag her in. But they're really putting over just how strong her will is, how she's willing to overcome all these hard emotional and social hurdles and dealing with all the table spots of Nia Jax. It's kind of art imitating life. If you've seen anything online or on the network about her stuff from Chronicle, having to deal with all the harassment from a lot of toxic wrestling fans, you know, I definitely feel for her on that one. It's kind of weird that the company, you know, is kind of responsible for that in the first place, the storylines they put her in. But as I've said before, acknowledging a problem isn't the same thing as fixing the problem. A nice early run for Natalya here. Shayna comes in with some kicks to Ruby Riott. One looking a little bit awkward, a little stiff. Lana tags herself in and actually gets a good run against Natalya. It's so impressive the other women forget how to tag. Peyton tags in, but it doesn't count. Nia just tags in instead. The ladies all yell at Lana and tell her to stand outside the ring. She begins to cry like, what is this? Like, shouldn't they be all kind of impressed by what they just saw? The whole build of the story was she was the weak link and she was worthless in the ring. And here she actually shows some competence against like the veteran worker on the other team, and they're like, no, go away. We're all really fucking stupid right now. Belair shows off her strength for a bit. Everyone goes on the outside. Bayley goes for an elbow drop, but Peyton stops her. We have a superplex to the outside onto everybody else. We almost get a non-apple count out, but Peyton brings Bayley into the ring and eliminates her. Natalya sets up a very difficult looking move and it immediately falls apart. Natty puts on the sharpshooter instead and eliminates Peyton. She gets decked by Lacey Evans with the woman's right, and Natalya's now gone. Lacey with a Spanish fly almost takes out Belair as well. Riott's squad working 2-on-1 against Jax until Shayna comes in. A nice elimination here where Ruby counters out of the clutch of the pinfall, but the referee was distracted, couldn't count fast enough. Riott's knocked out and Shayna just pins her. Liv takes out Lacey with the crucifix bomb. Nia withstanding all of Liv's offense and takes her out. Belair's by herself on the SmackDown side, but she goes on a heck of a run on Nia. A great catch out of the clutch by Shayna on Belair, but she fights out of it, falling into the ropes, but Baszler does not let go of the hold, and she is DQ'd. Belair and Jax fighting on the outside, but they get a double count out, and Lana is the sole survivor because she was on the steps and everyone else was wrestling. We all called it, everyone. We all pulled it off. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. There were a couple of cool moments with people like Natalya and Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair. Some good performances peppered throughout the match and stuff. But I mean, the overall booking of this thing and how it ended up going down is a real big head scratcher. Like the whole idea of like Lana looking really good all of a sudden and then they immediately exile her from the match. If they were going to do a moment where, you know, Lana's the sole survivor because everyone else gets counted out, that superplex spot on the outside probably should have been it. Because at least it would have protected everyone else who had to go through the rigor and, you know, got eliminated. In the end, who really gets over in this thing? I don't think anybody. I mean, Lana technically is the winner and she's the sole survivor by pure dumb luck. And after this redemption story, which is fine, and you know, oh yay, she's been bullied and now she stands tall as the winner for doing almost nothing. What has Lana done in kayfabe for us as a fan base to like her? I don't know. They've not told me, because she's never been portrayed as particularly good in the ring, so people aren't cheering her on for her in-ring skills. As a character, she's always been a heel until recently. She's like always been condescending to people. She had to go through that god-awful angle with the Rusev divorce and Bobby Lashley, and she was painted in a terribly negative light as a result of that. And so that's where probably a lot of the backlash came from, as if she didn't already suffer enough because of what people perceived her character to be and her ability to be and all that stuff. I don't understand. She's never been nice to anybody until this storyline, and even then it's like, oh, we have to feel sorry for her. Like, I'm not trying to pile on with the harassment of Lana. I respect her as a performer, but as a booking mechanism to get somebody over as a babyface, have you ever seen a babyface turn done out of pity and it working out? I don't think I've seen one, at least, you know, for somebody who has the ability to really pull it off, but I don't know, it seems pretty rare, and I don't think it's going to happen here. In your main event, the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre taking on the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. These two beefcakes are going to hash it out in a real big fight feel match. Drew does his Highlander entrance, the sword gets botched. As the match begins, Cole immediately jumps in and says, hey, don't forget the Miz is lurking, guys. Miz, by the way, won the Interbrand Battle Royal on the kickoff show. Lots of posturing and pacing. We get some deliberately paced opening action from Drew here. These guys soon begin to throw hands, some aggressive back and forth, until Roman throws Drew into the steps and takes over, looking very vicious with his forearms to the mush. Drew makes a big comeback. Roman's able to fight back, but Drew keeps kicking out. Big spine buster by McIntyre. Roman talks some trash, but then give us a kiss! Future shock DDT, a kick out by Reigns. Drew fights out of the guillotine attempt, but eats a ring post. He catches the spear attempt and counters into an armbar. Then there's a rope break. Two Samoan drops, breaks the announce table. Then a spear through the barricade behind it. Somehow Drew kicks out in the ring. Another spear is kicked out of. Wow. Roman telling Samoa Joe, you ain't seen this shit before. Goes for another spear, but Drew hits a claymore. The referee caught in the crossfire and is out. Here comes Jey Uso, but Drew decks him. A low blow by Reigns and a super kick by Uso. Some Superman punches, and finally the guillotine's locked in. Drew tries to fight, but he passes out. The ref calls it, and Roman wins. This is a great main event. 4.5 stars out of 5 for me on this one. I think that this was a great big boy battle, a very fun physical match. Definitely exceeded my expectations going into it, which were already pretty high. I think you couldn't make Drew look any stronger in defeat unless somebody shot him in the ring as well, because he did everything else as far as kicking out of so much other stuff. I don't think it's going to hurt him losing this the way that match ended, but I think it also plays really, really well into Roman's character, because then after the match, he regains the respect of Jey Uso. Jey's back in the fold and everything. They embrace on there. And, you know, Drew's got an axe to grind. We've definitely got like something tailor-made for a rematch down the line. I think this match definitely over-delivered on what it could have possibly done, and it was very dramatic, and I really enjoyed it. And now on the 30th anniversary of his debut at Survivor Series 1990, which, by the way, my review of that show I've recently re-uploaded after it was blocked. You can check it out right here. You've got The Undertaker's final farewell. Are we finally going to get it? Is this the final farewell? We're about to find out. First thing I noticed, the giant Tesla coils alongside the ramp. We have many special guests here. Shane McMahon, The Big Show, JBL, Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley, The Godfather, The Godwins, which is pretty damn cool. I don't know why seeing them show up made me a little verklempt, a little emotional seeing them there, but I think that was just a really cool thing. How often do you see the Godwins showing up on TV? But there they are, and I thought it was pretty cool. Savio Vega, Rikishi, Kevin Nash, Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, and Kane. I thought the little interaction we saw with Shane and Kane just as it was fading out before the tribute package began. Seeing all those guys in the ring, I felt kind of emotional seeing it, because not only was this whole segment a tribute to The Undertaker's career, but also in a way, them being involved was also kind of a tribute to them as well, especially the guys you don't see as often, like the Godwins, like the Godfather, you know, these people who have not been on TV for a very long time. A very cool, like, overview of like a generational group of talent there in the ring. The very cool tribute package ends, all the guests are out of the ring, and Vince McMahon stands alone. Why'd they bring all those guys there, though, if they're not going to be there for the rest of the segment? I thought it was kind of a weird blocking, like didn't have them on the stage or anything afterwards. Nope, they showed up, they clapped in a semicircle, we faded out, and they were gone. Vince McMahon looking pretty emotional here, saying the legacy of The Undertaker will live on eternally. He welcomes The Undertaker, and oh my God, the Tesla coils make music? Taker comes to the ring, he elevates in the corner, but we can see the platform, so the illusion is broken. Some major symbolism here. He literally stands above the ring, literally put on a pedestal. It's a real bizarre sight to see Taker there in the ring with this whole spotlight on him, this whole segment devoted just to him and his legacy, and there's no one there in the audience to see it. That, I think, was the real kind of gut punch for me. I think he really deserved to have that in front of a crowd. Obviously, you can't make that work right now in this era, but that's one thing I think would have made this a lot better. We get the canned chants. Taker says in a brief statement, "It's time to let the Undertaker rest in peace." Taker poses and we get the image of Paul Bear in the ring next to him. That made me tear up a little bit. We get the 10 gong, more music, more posing, and that's how we say farewell to the Undertaker. Pretty darn classy way to send him off. There's not much I can say about The Undertaker on a personal note that, hasn't been said more eloquently by people far more qualified than I. I mean, I have a great respect for The Undertaker. He was one of my first favorite wrestlers when I first started watching. I think that that era, the 98 Taker theme, is always one of my favorite themes of all time. For his longevity and for his commitment to the role and his ability to evolve over the years, those factors alone make him, he belongs to be in this rarefied air. You hear of occasional wrestlers having multi-decade careers that go a long time. It's become more and more rare in this day and age, but for Taker to be able to make that work and for this to happen on the 30th anniversary, you couldn't have timed that any better. Again, would have been really great if there was a live audience to appreciate this and to make him feel appreciated. But besides that, though, and there were a couple of weird moments, like with the Thunderdome crowd and just the blocking of the legends and stuff coming out and then leaving. Besides that, though, pretty well done way to pay tribute to him. He was a man of few words in the ring there, and even though not every one of his matches, were barn burners, he has a lot of gems later in his career, especially. I think, again, the longevity and just his ability to withstand so much injury and hardship and just the passage of time. I mean, Taker is one of the best, if not the best, no question. This is a great send-off for him. Also, I'm very glad it didn't turn into an angle. My grade for Survivor Series 2020 is a B+. I think it was overall a really strong edition of the show this year. And by the way, I put Keith Lee's new theme in the pros because I forgot to mention that in the opening match up there. But yeah, I think this was, except for the Sami Zayn Bobby Lashley match and the Women's Survivor Series match, which was really badly booked, I think it was a really strong show. We complain a lot about these shows. There's a lack of stakes every year because it's just Raw versus SmackDown, titles aren't on the line or anything. But I think when the action is as good as what we saw in many of the matches on this night, I think that can be forgiven to an extent. I think that the team matches we saw lend themselves to other storylines in the future, so at least those have a purpose in that way. And getting to see the final farewell of The Undertaker was really cool and emotional and very classy, I think. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed the show. But what did you guys think of Survivor Series this year? And what do you think about The Undertaker's farewell ceremony? What do you think his biggest legacy will be? Look forward to hearing what you all have to say about that. Quick little programming note. This week, I'll be taking a break from the evening shows just to try and take a little easy on myself. So no Raw review, no Wednesday Warfare, no SmackDown review. Those are not happening this week. I'll be taking a little bit of a break, but I still will be producing content during the regular parts of the day. And I will be dropping at least one other video to help, kind of make up for the loss of those videos for the week. So until then, I'm Brian Zayn, and I'll see you next time.